Noella Bergener has an emotional breakdown in the aftermath of her husband James Bergener suddenly leaving her in Wednesday's episode of Real Housewives of Orange County. Noella broke down in tears during a lunch with friend Nicole James, where she tearfully proclaimed her life is falling apart. Meanwhile, Shannon Stormspeeder tries to apologize to the returning Heather Dubrow, back for season 16 after a 5-year hiatus, when Heather doesn't pull any punches and straight up threatens Shannon. The episode begins with Emily Simpson telling her husband Shane that she wants to throw him a party since he passed the bar exam. Heather Dubrow comes to visit Jen Armstrong at her home, bringing her a bottle of champagne as they have some mimosas. Jen says they have a lot in common since they both have controlling personalities, as Jen says in confessions she thinks they're kindred spirits. Jen tells Heather that her husband Ryan gets complaints from the moms at their school for dropping their kids off shirtless. Heather wonders in confession if he really never wears a shirt, before they sit down to chat over drinks. Heather asks Jen what it's like to be in the anti-aging world, with Heather adding that being married to a plastic surgeon, she looks at all the angles. Heather says, "I feel like they look at you and they go, 'Oh, she looks great,' which Jen says is literally the best compliment you could ever give me. People are like, 'You haven't done anything.' And you look at him like, 'I've done everything in this office,'" Jen says. Jen says there are a lot of people in Orange County who look like cat muppets, adding some of them have sat in that very chair. Jen says that Noella was talking condescending to her at the party, while Heather apologizes for everything that happened. Heather said she talked to Gina and she apologized, but she adds that not everything has been worked out. The question is, why does someone want to make Nicole look bad? Heather asks. Heather thanks Jen for having her over, adding next time they should do it with the husbands, with Heather saying she'll get her husband to do some stomach curls to match Ryan's shirtless abs. Noella meets with Nicole James and nearly breaks down in tears, dealing with being served with divorce papers. "Yesterday I was served with divorce papers. Today, I don't even know where he is," Noella says in confession. "You know, the process server came to the house yesterday when I was at cryo with Gina, and she threw my divorce papers at my mother's face," Noella said. She adds she needs to find her husband to turn back on the credit cards and make sure that rent gets paid, in order to afford my son's therapy. Nicole asks if she's sure that he actually left the house, and she said she was sure because he took his toothbrush. Nicole says she should call him, and Noella tries but no one answers, with Nicole saying, "Well, he didn't block you." Noella breaks down again and needs Nicole to give her a hug, as she says in confession she doesn't know what the next step is. "That's a very scary place for me to be, 'cause I've never had a day of my life where I don't know what I'm gonna do," Noella says. Noella takes a drink and says she doesn't know where her husband is, and Nicole says she'll find it and they will work it out. Noella says in confession that she thinks her idea of friends is very different than others, as she starts having a breakdown at the table while Nicole wants them to leave. "I need friends, for the first time, to really show up for me," Noella says. She won't leave the table as she says, "My life is falling apart. My life is falling apart," as Nicole tells her there are a lot of people there and Nicole doesn't feel comfortable. Shannon meets with Real for Real CFO Steve as they go over packages with her daughter Stella, 17. My CFO suggested we hired Stella, cause nobody knows you better than Stella, Shannon says in confession, unsure if that's a good or bad thing. As a boss, my mom can be annoying and overbearing. Especially when she's in a bad mood. Wait, no, I don't want to make that sound like she's a bitch, Stella says in confession. Shannon adds she got 2 lump sums in her divorce settlement as she wonders if she'll have to pay for Stella's college. Gina and her boyfriend Travis have a double date with Emily and her husband Shane, with Emily saying she met with Nicole. Emily says that they're having a party for Shane passing the bar as Gina says she's excited to meet everyone's husbands. Gina says Noella FaceTimed her and told her Noella's husband filed for divorce, which shocks Emily and Shane. Emily says in confession that California law says they cannot cut off credit cards, but she doesn't know how Puerto Rico laws are, since that's where he filed for divorce. They start talking about Shannon, with Emily revealing that Shannon is coming to the party, with Gina adding she hopes Shannon brings a gift. Emily said in confession, I thought that Shannon and I had gotten to another level of friendship, but now I feel like Shannon is always going to protect Shannon first. Shane asks Emily not to bring this up at the party because it could be a disaster. Shannon and Stella go to see Drive Moon, an energy specialist, as Shannon tells her Stella hurt her back while playing volleyball. If someone can help make you feel better without loading myself or my kids up with a bunch of pills, I will sign up over and over again, Shannon says. The doctor tells her double hamstring weakness because her tailbone is tucked in. Stella says in confession that she is not a believer of holistic medicine, but she's here for her mom. Shannon asks if she feels better, but Stella says her back still hurts, though Shannon said it won't be fixed in one session. Stella says that she sees how much stress her mother is under since she's been working for her, and Shannon says she doesn't want to stress her daughter out. Stella says in confession, I want my mom to be happy and I don't think she's truly there yet. Throughout her life, she's experienced so many things that she's never truly gotten over or risen above. It would make me so happy to see her in her best self and thrive. Noella meets with her mom Nancy, who says it was heartbreaking when the process server came. Noella said he had that set in motion, while saying in confession that she is her guiding light and she is the one to kind of call me back home when I'm too lost at sea. Noella says that Hess not being himself and Hess not our James, but Nancy says she thinks Hess gone, but Noella thinks Hess gonna wake up, he will. I know he loves me. Emily is getting ready for Shane's party with her makeup artist Danielle and her friend Jody, as Emily has some trouble fitting into her dress. Shannon is getting ready as well when she FaceTimes with Noella, with Shannon saying she thinks about her every day. Shannon adds she wishes she got some answers, and Noella says that's been the hardest part about this whole ordeal. Shannon asks if Noella has spoken with Heather since the party, as Shannon reads the text that Heather sent her. Shannon says she has apologized for a lot, but now she thinks, I'm back at square one. Heather meets Nicole as they head over to the party with Heather's husband Terry and Nicole's boyfriend Victor. Nicole tells Heather about her lunch with Noella, adding she thinks her situation is serious, but tells Heather that Noella called her something. But added she was having a really bad day that day. Still, Nicole reveals that Noella called her a fake BH, which clearly surprises Heather, as they continue their ride to the party. Heather says she literally met her 3 times and they had some really nice exchanges, but she was very nice to Max, as they show a flashback to Noella meeting Max saying, "I'm a bisexual too." Nicole admits that Noella had a lot of drinks that day and she doesn't even think that Noella remembers that. Guests start arriving at the party, including Shane's parents, who brings photos of his graduation ceremonies. Emily says in confession, Shane's mom has been waiting for Shane to pass the California bar since he graduated from law school in 2003. "We have all been through so much to get to this point. We all had to come together. So this is my party and it's party's party. And it's a little bit of Shane's party." Noella arrives in white, but is concerned that they're all in white, since the last time that happened it wasn't a good time. Heather and Terry congratulate Shane on passing the bar, as Heather meets with Noella, with Heather saying she was filled in about Noella's divorce in the car. She brought Noella a gift for her because she was very kind to Max, a pool sarong. Noella is obviously going through a very difficult time in her life. "And honestly, let's not ruin 2 parties in a row," Heather says in confession. Heather talks to Emily about any potential blow-up over Shannon being there, right as Shannon arrives. Shannon talks to Emily about things Shannon said, and Shannon said that was after the promise was broken. Emily tells Shannon, "The thing that bothers me is I don't like when you met with Heather. The only adjectives you used to describe me to Heather was untrustworthy and manipulative. I thought we were friends, Shannon." Shannon responds, "You know what, I didn't say those words. I didn't say those words," as Emily says, "So you're saying Heather's a liar?" Emily goes to get Heather as Shannon tells her, "Emily, all I said is you don't know that she can be trusted," but Emily wants to know, "But how did I get brought into it?" Shannon insists, "I didn't say, Emily," as Emily goes to find Heather, as Shannon thinks that's messed up that she's doing that now. Shannon brings Heather over, as Heather says she thought they weren't going to do this here. Heather clarifies that Shannon said, "They are not to be trusted. They are manipulative. That is what you said to me." Emily and Gina and the others talk to Noella, as Emily says in confession, "As a woman and as a mother, I feel a lot of sympathy and I feel compassion for her, but also I feel very lucky because Shane and I have had our ups and downs and I didn't always know what was going to happen, but I knew it was my choice. And for her, she didn't have a choice. He left." Emily tells Noella that, "I want you to know when I wake up in the morning, you're the first thing I think about. And when I go to bed at night, you're the first thing I think about." Shannon goes to talk to Heather and they find a quiet place to talk, with Shannon starting by stating, "First of all, I'd like to say, I didn't reach out to you immediately because you didn't want to accept my apology. You said that to me that night, but my friendship with you means something to me, and I care about you and Terry, and I'm the dumbest that didn't think," Shannon said. "And in the interim, I hurt my friend and I never wanted to do that, and I'm so sorry. And I hope you can accept my apology and over time forgive me. What I did was wrong. And it's not me. I don't want to hurt people," Shannon said, adding she wants to do whatever I can to make it up to you. When Shannon finished her piece, Heather began, "I have heard from everyone. I feel like I have a good understanding of the facts, and nothing that you say with the details is going to change my mind about Wait. Just let me finish. I think you had a huge lapse in judgment, and I'm going to say this, and I'm sorry if this sounds harsh, but this is how I feel," Heather adds, before laying down her threat. "If you ever come after me or my family ever again, you are going to lose a lot more than just my friendship. This will cost a lot. And I'm not saying this as a threat. I'm saying it as a promise," Heather says as the episode comes to an end. The preview for next week's episode shows Heather and her husband Terry at the Delmer horse race track, celebrating after a seemingly big win. Jen marvels over Nicole filling a Louis Vuitton suitcase with cheese, as Noella says, "Girl, bye" to Shannon regarding Jen. Apparently Jen finds out what Noella said, and when Jen confronts her about it, Noella says Jen is thirsty as the preview comes to an end. The Real Housewives of Orange County continues its 16th season with a new episode on Wednesday, January 5 at 9 p.m. ET on Bravo.